don't think I'm exaggerating to say that this is probably the most important podcast I've produced. I'm giving an awful lot away in this podcast, so hopefully it will help people. The title Baby Brain is, well, it may strike you as being an odd title, but that is essentially where most of us are. Our real brain, our real being is still a baby. By the age of 5 or 6, maybe a little bit later, but thereabouts, you've been beaten up by life enough for your real brain, your subconscious, to go into hiding. And it goes into hiding to protect itself. Doesn't want any more beating up. Doesn't want to be told anymore that it can't have, that it's naughty, that it's a bad person, or whatever happens to a particular child up to that kind of age. And so it closes down. Doesn't want to hear anymore. And not only that, by the time a child is 5 or 6, it's having to deal with life. And as I've said in many podcasts, the primary driver within us is the drive to survive. So we become involved in that whole effort to continue with our existence. And our everyday conscious mind, which is a thing that thinks and reasons and is awake for 18 hours a day, is almost wholly devoted to that act of survival. So even at the age of 5 or 6, you spend a good part of your day at school learning stuff, then playing with your mates and learning who's stronger than you, who's weaker than you, how to suck up to the people who are stronger, and all that kind of stuff. It's all survival stuff, and we start learning it at a fairly early age, and we become fully consumed with it. And most people, when they get to the age of 60 or 70, are still consumed with it. The survival drive is a tyrant. And along with it, of course, goes a sexual drive, which ensures that there's another generation to do the whole damn thing again. So, we have our subconscious, which by the age of 5 or 6 has gone into hiding. It's our real feelings. You can always tell what the subconscious is doing by your emotions. And then we have the conscious mind, which is strutting about all over the place, telling people it's clever, it's great, it's strong, whatever is needed to survive in this life. That's what the conscious mind busies itself with. But the result is that the subconscious is complaining all the time. We don't listen to it, but it's complaining. It's saying, I'm frightened, I'm angry, I'm insecure. And the baby brain, is all of those things. It is frightened, it is angry, it is insecure. And it's crying all the time. And we don't listen to it because we don't want to listen to it in the first place, because we're busy with life. And secondly, we don't know what to do with that anyway. Who wants to sit listening to a crying baby? It's the shrillest sound on earth. Who wants to listen to that? So our conscious mind pays almost no attention to the subconscious. Our conscious mind is basically a slave to our survival instinct. And as far as nature's concerned, it really doesn't give a damn whether you listen to your baby or not, as long as you fulfill the need to generate the next generation of people who can do the same thing. It really doesn't care. So you have to find shelter, food, enough money, enough health to raise the next generation. And then by the time you get to 50 or 60, when you've done all of that, life basically throws you on the scrap heap. Your health degenerates and eventually you die. So the task of the conscious mind isn't actually really to do the survival stuff. It has to do that stuff, but that isn't the real task. The real task of the conscious mind is to educate the baby, the subconscious mind. How does it do that? Because your baby will not give you peace until you have done that. Your baby will keep screaming. You will feel frightened. You will be angry. You will feel insecure. You will hate people. You will love the wrong people. Whatever it is that goes on in your life. Your baby will scream and scream and scream until it's told about the realities of life. Now, when I say told, it sounds like we might say in our minds, this is all the positive affirmation crap, oh, everything's going to be fine, no need to worry. That does nothing for the baby, because you're not listening to the baby. The baby's actually saying, I'm frightened. And those feelings are in your body. I'm talking about the subconscious mind, but really your subconscious mind manifests through the body. So if you're anxious, and most people are anxious, then that's your baby speaking to you, saying, I'm frightened, or I'm angry, or whatever. So you have to be in touch with your body, and I'll say more about that at the end. But you need to listen to your baby, and listening to your baby means listening to your body. People, almost to a man and woman that I speak to, always start off, when I say, what do you want? They always say the same thing, I want peace. That's what most people want, inner peace, and yet what they have within them is a screaming baby. So if we can satisfy the baby, make the baby happy, then we get inner peace. It's as simple as that. Meditation is not going to bring you inner peace. It might do for 10 or 15 minutes, but then when you go back into the world and you find that the dog's had a shit on your brand new Persian carpet, then you're not going to feel all that peaceful. And besides which, the baby starts crying again as soon as you come out of your meditation state. So the job of the conscious mind, just to summarize that, is to educate the baby. First of all, it has to listen to the baby. And that means listening to your body. And then it has to explain to the baby why it's behaving and why it's feeling the way it's feeling. Because actually the baby's not stupid. If you tell it something that is true, it knows that it's true. That is one of the characteristics of the baby. It knows what is true. So telling your baby that everything's fine, we're going to have such a wonderful day today, blah, blah, blah. The baby knows that isn't true. It knows everything is not fine. It knows that you probably won't have a wonderful day today. And it knows that you're pretending. And what's more, you're not listening to the baby. So, here's maybe a few ways that we can listen to the baby. So, one of the main problems for the baby is that it knows it's going to die. And it knows that life is full of dangers. It knows that. And that's why many people get stuck on that particular theme. Oh my God, death. Oh my God, the world's such a dangerous place. Well, the baby needs to be told things in the way that they are. We are finite creatures, we are mortal, we will die. And this is the way the universe is made. And there's no getting around it. As soon as you offer up a palliative to your baby, it won't believe you. So if you say, well, we're all going to die, but we can be happy meanwhile, your baby will think, oh, that's a pile of shit. It knows that's not true. And that's the interesting thing about the baby. It kind of knows what is right and what is wrong when you're trying to bullshit it. So if you tell it, if you can feel that anxiety in your body and just say, oh, well, I'm feeling this, or you're feeling this because you're anxious about your mortality. Well, guess what? You are going to die. You have to give it the brutal facts. You are going to die. You are insignificant. In 100 years from now, it will be as though you had not existed. You mean nothing. Actually, that kind of message to the baby can give it a huge sense of relief. Because one of the things about the baby is that because it feels so insecure and inadequate, it pumps itself up. And that pumping up is itself an anxiety. So to tell it, actually, you mean fuck all, is a message that the baby will welcome. And this is the bizarre thing about so-called religious and spiritual practices. That, you go to, I don't know, any one of the sort of fashionable Indian gurus or the likes of Tolla or whoever, and they're going to tell you nice things. And guess what? The baby doesn't believe it. And it doesn't believe it because it's not true. And all these people, and there are millions of them, who pursue positive thinking or being mindful, and I'll get onto all of that in a moment, all that kind of thing, that is doing nothing for their baby. Their baby is learning nothing with those kind of practices. The baby needs to learn the truth and actually wants to know the truth. So, if your baby is angry, you need to feel that anger. What is it that's making this baby angry? Or maybe it wants and it's not getting. And so the baby needs to be told that actually it is just a very, very small thing, and the universe is much, much larger than it. And so most of the things it wants it will not be able to get just because of circumstances. When people adopt a variety of methods to try and reach peace, they are in actual fact making matters worse. Let me give you a few examples. So remember, your baby by the age of 5 or thereabouts has been beaten up enough that it just goes into a corner and hides away. So what do? You go to some spiritual guru and they give you some new modes of behavior that you need to adopt. So you should exercise loving kindness. The baby doesn't want to do fucking loving kindness. The baby's beaten up and frightened. Doesn't want to go to the effort of doing loving kindness. So all that we're doing, again, through being told practice loving kindness, is we're beating the baby up even more. We're saying your behavior isn't adequate, you need to change it so that it is more adequate. And the baby doesn't want to hear that. The baby actually wants relief from all that kind of stuff. He wants to be told, actually, even though you're shit scared, even though you're angry and all the rest of it, that's fine. That's just the way it is. And if you want to understand why you're angry, then you need to understand that you're a very small thing in a very large world, and you're not going to get what you want all the time. And actually you're mortal. And in the big scheme of things, you're as nothing. The baby will respond to that kind of thing. And it's an interesting thing that many people who read Schopenhauer, for example, and Schopenhauer is profiled as a pessimist philosopher, but many people say when they read Schopenhauer they get comfort from it. Schopenhauer says things like, our life is driven by pain, by want. All we are doing all the way through life is servicing these desires. And if we can't get them serviced, we have pain. And the whole thing is driven by pain. And yet people read that and they have a sense of relief in reading it. Why do they have a sense of relief? Because it's true. The baby knows that it's true. So anyway, I was talking about adopting various practices. So, being mindful. Oh my God, please don't do that. you know, Obviously you do it because you believe it's going to lead to some kind of improved state, greater happiness, greater peace, or whatever. It isn't. You're just telling you're just giving the baby another way it has to behave. Don't be mindful. Be unmindful. Be deliberately unmindful. So, there's mindfulness. There's adopting some kind of mandate from your spiritual guru. There's maybe religion. We should be kind and we should be generous, and don't do it. The baby doesn't want to hear all that stuff. The baby's stressed enough without you loading a whole pile of other stuff on the top of it. Here's the magical thing, and it is magical, and I'm speaking from personal experience here and the experience of others. If you can educate your baby, which is what this is all about, eventually, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to become loving and kind. You don't have to become generous. You don't have to do mindfulness. If you can educate your baby, and that means listening to it and responding to its state, if you can educate it, then the baby will calm down on its own. You don't have to do anything. The baby becomes peaceful, becomes happy. So, I did do a podcast ages ago called something like Do Not Adjust Any Settings or something. It's the same message, but this is a fuller version of it. Peace is an educated baby. Now, how are you going to educate it? Well, in terms of various, disciplines and practices, probably something like Gestalt therapy goes some of the way into this, which is a Western therapeutic practice. People who really know what they're doing with the Gurdjieff work will do this kind of thing, but 90% of the people who are running Gurdjieff groups haven't got a clue what they're doing. They will just load your baby with more things it has to do and make it more unhappy, and you'll become less peaceful inside. Most of the people running Gurdjieff groups have just read the books. Or maybe they've been to a lecture somewhere. I was privileged to have known somebody who knew Gurdjieff, so I got a bit of an inside track on it all. Anything else? Well, to be honest, any of the real traditions, the problem is that all of the traditions become corrupted and serve the needs of the people who run the traditions. So it is in the interest of the church to tell you that you're a bad person. The baby doesn't want to hear that. The baby just wants to understand why it's feeling like it's feeling. So those are some of the options. The other option, and it always embarrasses me a little bit to say what the people people I know are doing. But there's something called a sound practice, which is sense, observe, understand. That will educate your baby. And I'll put a link to the philosophy workshop channel below. And if you really want to educate your baby down deep, and all there is offer, or all there is on offer here, is work. This requires work on the part of your conscious mind. Then go to the Patreon channel, because there it's deep. It's as deep as I want to go anyway. So there are two things that I can offer: the sound practice and the Patreon channel. Simply with the aim of educating your baby. And remember, an educated baby is a happy and peaceful baby. And that's exactly what you want.